Welcome to the Return to Food 7-Day Challenge webinar for October. 11 of you have showed up so far out of 38 people registered, and the count is increasing, so that's really exciting. Thank you so much for showing up tonight. I want to thank you and congratulate you for actually taking the time out of your evening to be part of the Return to Food 7-Day Challenge webinar. I've got some really interesting information I'm wanting to share with you right now, so I'm just kind of playing with my screen a little bit. I hope you can see it. Hope it actually makes sense to you. We are going to get through the presentation. Now, today I actually have something really exciting for me. May not be completely relevant to you, but this is the first webinar that I'm actually holding with my support crew, the Return to Food new team members. And for those of you who don't know, I'm going to talk a little bit about them in the oops, I've got something going on. Techie, that's happening again here. Funny bits. If you just give me 1 second, I'm actually going to pull up the PDF because I think it's a much better way to actually operate this. Thank you very much. Okay, so the team that I actually have joining me tonight is Dr. Taryn Dean, who is a naturopathic doctor. And I also have Amanda McKenzie, who is a certified nutritional practitioner. And interestingly enough, I have connections to both of them through the Institute of Holistic Nutrition. So that's very exciting that they have actually joined me on the webinar tonight. And you know what? If I get the PDF going, it's going to be even more exciting. So apologies for technical difficulties. As they often say, technology is great when it works. And right now, it is not actually working. So let's go back to this and see if that can work. Okay, open that up a bit. And let me go here, present to everyone, see how you go. And we're going to start. So why are you here tonight? Well, everyone has different reasons. My reason is that I am totally committed to helping people to develop a healthy relationship with food, their body, and the planet. And this is something that we are seeing that is absolutely essential because the diet mentality is actually creating sickness, not just physically within our bodies. It's creating sickness mentally in how we actually relate to food, and then the body image that we have as a result of that, and obviously also how it impacts the environment. So that's why I'm here. One of the things that might be happening for you is you might have more than one reason. And maybe you have tried tons of dieting and you want to stop dieting. You want to get off the treadmill because you realize this is not actually working. Or you might not have ever had any problems with dieting, but you want to get more energy. You want to actually get back to that place where you actually feel balanced, you feel grounded. You want to eliminate brain fog so you can actually think clearly. And if you are experiencing brain fog, you're probably also experiencing food hangovers, which is not a fun thing to be experiencing. And I think everyone wants to feel great consistently. We have so many things that are actually creating great kind of challenges for us to do that. And even those of us who we are professionally, we have professional reasons to actually keep looped into this way of being, and actually being holistic can actually be a challenge. So part of the 7-day challenge and the things I want to share with you tonight are just some tips and tools and strategies that I've actually learned over the years to help you feel very consistently and to lose weight instinctively. So stopping the diet treadmill, that when you're actually feeling in that place where you want to find a much more healthy weight for your body, that you can do that by actually tapping into your inner guidance system and detoxing and cleansing naturally. We are constantly under siege, it seems, in an unnatural world where almost everything is attacking us. In fact, I was speaking at the LA Green Festival this past weekend, and there was a panel of experts who were talking about eco-friendly fashion and clothing, and they had all this information about the unnatural dyes in clothing and then unnatural fibers, synthetic fibers, and how that actually impacts our body to literally create toxicity within the body. If you think about the body being close to these things and can actually zap our energy levels. It can affect our sleep, and really, I think all of us know that sleep is so significant, it's so important, and we all want to sleep soundly and wake refreshed. And the principles within Return to Food and the 7-Day Challenge can absolutely help you with this. So I just want to encourage you to stay tuned for the end of the webinar. We're having a prize draw. And this is a laser coaching session with myself and a signed copy of Return to Food and a Zoodle Maker, which is the best grader in the world for making the best zucchini noodles. And that has been certified by a blind panel, a panel of chefs who were blindfolded. They weren't all blind, but they were blindfolded. Now, last webinar, I got so kind of flustered by technology at the end of it that I forgot to give the prize draw away online. I did actually give it to the first person registered, but today the team, the girls and I, have decided that we are going to actually give the laser coaching session away to the person who is actually the most engaged, either through comments and questions in the side panel. And so just to let you know, on the side panel there, you'll find that there is a chat icon in the top right-hand corner. You'll see next to chat, there'll be room. You can see how many people are there. And so right now, if you want to just go over into the chat area to say hello, I see that Francis, hello Francis, is here. Jocelyn, has this started? Hopefully you're here still, Jocelyn. Yes, it started. Donna, hello, and Gina, hello. Thanks for those of you who said hello. Everyone else, please feel free to introduce yourself. And we are going to get started on the webinar. And yeah, so start to get engaged, because Taryn and Amanda are going to be following the comments, and they are actually going to be the decision makers as to the most engaged. And they'll be making sure that I get all your questions and comments so I know what's actually going on. So just for those of you who may be joining us for the first time, you're not familiar with the work that I've been doing, I've branded myself as a food philosopher. And that's because I help people develop a healthy relationship with food, their body, and the planet by developing a new mindset and a relationship to what it is they're eating. My background is as a nutritionist in Australia. I was a chef there for many years as well, and I'm the author of Return to Food. So those are just a few things that I've been doing and have done. And to give you an idea, over the years that I've worked with some really interesting people in the world, from Jamie Oliver to David Wolfe to Marielle Hemingway, who ended up writing the forward for my book, to the Princess Takamoto from the Japanese royal family. We both gave a TED Talk in 2009, to W. Brett Wilson, who was on the Dragon's Den. He was featured on the Dragon's Den for 3 series. And I met Brett and started working with him through the work that I was doing with Theo Fleury, who's the NHL hockey player. And here is a panel of people through Get Calgary Healthy, which a woman by the name of Tonya Dahl actually started, and she brought out Joel Salatin, who was in Food Inc., who wrote the book Folks, This Ain't Normal, and David Wolfe, who we've worked together many times, and the author of Wheat Belly. And yeah, so that was a really interesting time and speaking, and I have been able to speak around the world around the topic of food and developing a healthy relationship with it. I've written in magazines. I've been a regular to television in Australia and been featured in magazines as well. But I can honestly say that my life was not always that way. In fact, I grew up in what I call the culinary equivalent to a gastronomic black hole, so seriously bad food and nutritional, spiritual, mental, and emotional poverty. And I would always like to add a disclaimer around that I have enormous respect and love for my parents, and really understand that they were doing the very best with the tools that they had. But they really basically, with their lack of knowledge, set me up to be addicted to food from a very young age. And you can see pictures. Here's the result of me before, when I was actually a size 16. And I was a chef at that time. I was twice my present size right now. I had a pathological attraction to horizontal stripes, not very attractive. And I was very unhappy. I had plenty of illness indicators, migraine headaches, lower back pain, pre-diabetic symptoms, and extreme depression. And really, I changed all of that around by returning to eating real food, of which I'm going to share some of the concepts tonight with you. And yeah, so let's get into it. I'm just realizing that I'm broadcasting more of that slide than I want to see, the slide master. So I'm just trying to get that off to the side. So organizing that a little bit better. Okay, maybe not. Okay, anyway, you got the whole show. Here we go. So I was one of those babies that my mother was convinced by doctors and nurses that this new baby formula was better for her baby than breast milk. And I started off on what I refer to as the lethal recipe, and that breast milk is, you know, an incredibly species-specific complex food, perfectly designed for the human species. And baby formula, we can honestly say that was made up at that time of refined sugars, oils, grains, salts, and chemicals, including MSG, which we now know is an excitotoxin, also a neurotoxin. So this is something that is a chemical that can actually permeate the blood-brain barrier and contribute to all kinds of disease and disorder symptoms. The other thing too is that it can actually breed in, when you're feeding a child from a young age, refined ingredients, addiction to those foods. And in fact, we know that in the womb, the child can actually start to develop addictions if the mother's diet is highly processed. So the challenge that we have going on is really the result of the experience that I've had over the many years of dealing not just with my own path and addiction to what I call the lethal recipe, to working with literally thousands of people, speaking to thousands of people over the past 25 plus years about facing the challenges that are actually coming up around addiction. And what is actually happening is that we often think that we're actually eating because this food is truly healthy, when in fact we are often eating for the drug-like responses that actually happen within our body when we're eating those foods, particularly when we're set up for life to eat this way. So I think I'm just going to do a little trick. And Taryn, you've got the comments there, so if anyone asks a question, you can forward them on to me. And I'm just going to do this. Woohoo! And go full screen, so you don't actually have to see my side notes and everything like that. So the challenge really is about helping people to get back to developing that healthy relationship with food, their body, and the planet, so they actually know what it is that they're meant to be eating and the quantities they're actually meant to be eating it in. And the challenge is really about helping you to raise your standards. Raise your standards, and the universe will actually meet you there. So the challenge is about it's not a crazy challenge of you have to go out and clear out everything in your house, you know, on the first day, buy a ton of new ingredients. It really is about starting to work on the inner game so you can actually raise your vibrational frequency and really get you feeling in a way that your body is actually designed and meant to be. It's actually happening. Rena, apologies if the slides have gone missing for a moment. Have they gone missing on your side? Oh, okay, right. Sounds like a boyfriend that I spoke to one time. Okay, raise your standards and the universe will follow. We are being naughty here, but we're gonna have fun. Anyway, recipes and strategies, let's see if that actually helps. It doesn't seem to, we are just having some major technical difficulties here. Okay, I'm gonna go back here. You mean to the other, yes, okay, that's what we're doing. We're gonna go back to the other way of viewing it. You're gonna see my slides, you're gonna see, please don't text me in the middle. You're gonna see my slides on the side, but I apologize. So now some of you are actually commenting that you can't see the slides. They are actually coming back, so I apologize for that. We will get onto that right away. It's coming up now. Oh, good. Awesome. Okay. So what is the 7-day challenge? Let's get back into it. And I will be sharing some really, some very interesting tips that are actually going to help you, whether you decide to join us on the challenge or not. I really want you to get the most out of this session today. So here we go. We're going to share the information that's actually coming up in the challenge. I'm actually going to share some tips and strategies, as I mentioned in the webinar, link that you were sent in the original email. And I'm going to tell you about the 7-day challenge. And I'm also going to open up to questions and answer any of your questions at the time. So we're in a unique situation tonight in that we actually have Taryn and Amanda here to answer questions if there's anything that stumps me. We've got experts coming out of our ears here. So that's a bit of fun, but the cleanse is really about looking at the inner game, not just the physical side of a program to actually help you develop that healthy relationship with food. So we've got recipes, strategies, philosophies, detox and cleanse, tips and recipes. There's Google Hangouts, there's botanical strategies, there's a daily custom meditation, Facebook group support, and private coaching available if you actually come to this work through the Return to Food Coach. So throughout this webinar, I'm actually going to be sharing my #1 trick and treat for keeping weight up over the upcoming holidays, and also to find out the big 7 ingredients in your pantry and fridge keeping you flat, fat, and tired. And also I want to share with you the most powerful tool to lose weight, gain energy, and reverse disease. And it has nothing to do with diet or exercise, although it will impact diet and exercise. And this philosophy is a complete game changer for myself and my clients over the years. So I just want to kind of go back to what is actually happening with the environment and how that actually impacts us. And just to know that humans right now are actually affecting the planet in such a dramatic way that we are threatening our own way of being. And if we see the extinction and the threats that are actually happening with insects, who we tend to think that we're kind of the strongest in the food chain. A wonderful quote by E.O. Wilson said that if all insects were to disappear overnight, mankind would soon cease to exist. Yet if humankind were to disappear overnight, all other life forms would soon flourish. So the interesting thing that we need to take from that is the most vulnerable species on the planet actually determines our well-being and even our future and how we actually treat the planet. And one of the biggest determinants to the environmental issues is actually how we eat. And that has the biggest impact on the environment. So the further we deviate from nature and a natural diet, the sicker we become as a species. And I love these signs in Australia where they say, wrong way, go back. And if you're going down the freeway and you go to an off-ramp and you're going in the wrong direction, you will see a sign that looks just like this, and it says, wrong way, go back. And I think this is a great sign for actually what's actually happening here in the Western world with how we're eating, and we're importing this diet all over the world now. So it's one of the things we can't say so much anymore is in the Western world is because we're all impacted by this. And the problem really does happen when we actually start to take the diet mentality. When we start to relate to food from just our head, and rather than integrating the whole of our body to actually help understand what it is we're meant to be eating, and we start to diet and intellectualize what we should and shouldn't be eating rather than really taking a holistic approach, we've created a big problem. And as Einstein, a very smart and intelligent man, said, you cannot solve a problem with the same consciousness that created the problem. And if we go back just 100 years, we will actually see that the diet mentality and really making our food about macro and micronutrients created a problem with the way we thought about food, and in turn, how we actually made our food choices. There's a universal axiom that I talk about in Return to Food, and I say what's good for the body is good for the planet, and what's good for the planet is good for the body. And I have not yet seen an exception to this rule. And so it's really kind of a interesting thing to understand that something just so simple, this concept is so simple, that if we do something in any way that's not good for the planet, it comes back and impacts us. And the goal with part of the 7-day challenge is starting to help us think differently about how it is we're eating. So we're actually changing our consciousness around food. And when we changed our consciousness around food, we actually change our behaviors around food. And we go from this diet mentality to a far more holistic and integrated way to relate to these things. And I just want to say to you that I'm not anti-science. I'm pro-nature. But when science messes with nature, I'm going to defend my mother. So I say Mother Nature. And this is really important to understand, that I'm not trying to make anyone wrong or make science wrong. I really want to just get us back to that place where we're really just taking care of loving the planet and loving our bodies, because they work together. And I love this quote when Albert Einstein was asked how it feels to be the smartest man alive. He said, "I don't know, ask Nikola Tesla." Now, Nikola Tesla is not the car designer. He's not the owner of the car manufacturing company. He was a brilliant scientist. And what I loved about Nikola Tesla's work is that he really worked with nature. There's a form of science that actually thinks that they can outsmart nature, just like, you know, the scientists who said this baby formula is better than breast milk. And then there are the scientists who actually realize how incredibly powerful nature is, how it's complete and it has everything there to serve us. And Nikola Tesla says, "The desire that guides me in all I do is the desire to harness the forces of nature in service to mankind." And I'll just quickly flash past that slide because there's a typo in there. But Nikola Tesla was a scientist who loved and worked with nature. Another scientist who I have a huge amount of respect for, that very few people actually know about, is a man by the name of Rudolf Steiner. And Rudolf also was very much someone who was very keen to work with nature. And he said, "May my soul bloom in love for all existence." Now, if you don't know who Rudolf Steiner is, he is the fellow who developed the educational system called the Steiner Schools. Also, people who were offshoots of the Steiner Schools were the Montessori schools and the Waldorf schools, of which many people are actually starting to go back to, or not. They're coming to this way of actually educating people. But what I know Rudolf Steiner most for is that he was actually the person who developed biodynamic farming. And biodynamic farming is an excellent example of harnessing the forces of nature. If you're not familiar with it, organic is about not growing with chemicals, so which is definitely, you know, something that's working with nature, because we're not destroying that beautiful microflora, you know, in the soils that actually produce the nutrients that are actually infused into the plants. Well, biodynamic actually goes along this as well, but it goes even further in that it does harness the forces of nature. So when I'm talking about all of these things and our relationship with food, our body, and the planet, I'm not being anti-science. I love science, but what I do wish for the future of, you know, our generations to come is that we start to respect the resources that we have and the planet we have, so they actually have something to work with. It's not just about, you know, making shareholders happy. We need to actually plug in and come back to what is really important. And the truth is that we've become too busy and distracted to take care of our most important assets, our body and our earth home. And when I was speaking at the LA festival on the weekend, I was saying that if we were actually tenants and the earth was a house that we were renting, we definitely would have been kicked out years ago for breaking the lease agreement. You know, we are not taking over our earth home. And here's the crazy thing is that when we're not taking care of our earth home, we're not taking care of ourselves. It impacts us. And how we eat is the most dramatic way that this actually shows up and how it actually impacts the planet. And it's costing us dearly, right? So if we start to look at the obesity trends that were actually happening in North America, and Canada has a set of its own, but the obesity trends in North America, we're seeing that just in a very short period of time, when they started to take this data in 1985, there was hardly any of this population that were actually in the red in the obese zone. It was rare. But as they started to develop these slides, and now that's, if you just see in year 2000 that it's actually gone from hardly having anyone in this control group indicative of the population in the red to being primarily in the red, and we see it's growing every day. And we see the same thing that's actually happening in Canada. And the interesting thing is, and I love to point out, that it's not just obesity that's the issue. If we look at the same direction of increase of lifestyle diseases, whether it's obesity, heart disease, diabetes, cancer, and literally hundreds of other diseases, we're seeing an escalation. And the escalation is showing up in such dramatic ways that we know that this is not a genetic situation. This is purely environmental. And we really need to actively change this. You can see this with the diabetes stats. It's increasing dramatically, and cancer along with it. So it's costing us in the form of disease, quality of life, meaning, and that deep sense of peace and pleasure that can only come from plugging into nature. So the 7-Day Challenge really is about plugging into nature and with respect to what we eat and how we relate to food. So what is the 7-Day Challenge? It's basically helping us to get back to how we ate in a more natural context. And the first question that I promised to answer for you was, how can we actually keep weight off for the upcoming holidays? Now, there's, for many of us in Canada who are actually listening to this call, we have Thanksgiving coming up. And in the lead up to Thanksgiving, how many places are selling that pumpkin pie that is almost impossible to resist, right? And then we move into from Thanksgiving, and sometimes people actually even have 2 Thanksgiving dinners if they have to share families. And then we move into Halloween, where there's tons of candy and sweet things around. And then we move into, if you're in the States, the American Thanksgiving and different, holidays that are actually coming up, moving into Christmas and New Year. This is the time where we're actually starting to see people are actually winding up to celebrate more, to eat more. And the result is of that eating more is that we are actually going to experience levels of sickness and pain that come as a result, particularly of eating the lethal recipe. So how to keep the weight off over the upcoming holidays? There's lots of strategies that we can actually employ. But one of the strategies that I want to encourage you to actually consider is something that's super, super simple. And it may seem like a diet tactic, but I really want to change your perception around this. And this is one of the things that I love to do, and it's to broth fast twice a week. You can do this as many times as you want. And one of the best way that you can actually get your body to heal is to fast. And a great way to actually fast and still bring nutrients into your body without your body having to digest food, which is a hugely taxing experience for the human body, is that by actually having broth, you can actually get protein into your body, into your system. You can get certain nutrients in it with minerals. You can actually be putting things like dulse and seaweed into it, and it has just a very gentle effect on the body. And if you're really craving kind of, something to chew, I just put in a stack of veggies. I look at what's, local at my farmer's market, and I just start slicing it up. And I literally just bring my broth up to a simmer, throw my veggies in. And so you're getting some are just slightly cooked, and some, are actually still kind of raw. And the things that actually take longer to cook, you can actually, you can keep those in a little bit longer, or you can grate them so they're finer than the things that you actually chop. And so it's really quite nice. And things you can do to make this broth taste lovely. If you're vegetarian or vegan, you can actually use some miso paste. I'd go a little bit easier on it because too much salt will actually interfere with the fasting process to actually help your body kind of heal and take off excess weight. And some beautiful things that you can actually put in are some grated ginger, grated garlic into it, and sometimes I will actually put a bit of tahini in it. So a little bit of fat, a raw fat in the way of the sesame, ground up sesame seeds is awesome. So basically, the antidote of actually eating a lot of rich foods is to start to move to eating a little bit lighter at night. And what you're going to find is if you can actually start to eat lighter at night and be more mindful about what it is that you are eating, great trick is to actually turn off the television. Consistently, they've shown that by keeping the television on, people consume up to 30% more because they're not really present for the act of eating, and they are watching television. They can just basically shovel a lot more in unconsciously by doing that. So eating light at night, and obviously not late at night, are some other things that are really helpful. And again, when you're eating these things, to be super mindful. That's one of my tips for keeping the weight off over the holiday season. The other thing too is that there are a lot of pressures that actually come up around the holidays. And one of the things we can start to do is to think about other people, think about gifts, think about, feeding lots of other people. And sometimes we're not actually nourishing ourselves. And so one of the things I strongly recommend is that when you're, instead of actually waiting till the end of the day to do something nice for yourself or to be kind in a non-food way, is to start to nourish yourself and hyper-nourish yourself throughout the day. And I'm going to talk a little bit about hyper-nourishment a little bit later on. But this is a really valuable tool for that whole process of developing a healthy relationship with food and your body. So now I want to talk about the big 7 ingredients in your pantry and fridge that are keeping you flat, fat, and tired. And I promise you, as you start to remove these ingredients one by one from your pantry and fridge, you will start to not only notice that your energy levels increase, your moods will actually start to even out. So even if you're facing challenges and it's a bit difficult for you, you can actually start to have this beautiful, calm, grounded feeling that helps you deal with things. And I know for sure that the big 7 ingredients that are actually creating this problem are definitely contributing to brain fog. They're contributing to people having less energy, and they're contributing to an increased sense of anxiety. So this is really important. And so those big 7 ingredients, if you're familiar with Return to Food, if you've read the book, you basically know 5 of them for sure. But 7 of them, we cover all of these in the Return to Food Challenge. And they are refined sugars, refined oils, refined salts, refined grains, refined chemicals, refined dairy, and refined soy. So all of these things are things that are actually happening. The way we're processing them in the food system is creating a huge, huge problem. So Bees just asked a question. She said, would a smoothie/juice fast work? Yes, absolutely, Bee. One of the things to keep in mind, and I certainly learned this from Taryn, is that in the winter months, if you're having a smoothie at night, what I'd probably suggest is that you actually go more towards vegetables. In the sense, and what she was telling me is, because I was having smoothies and I was experiencing a few issues, and she said maybe try and have some gently cooked ingredients. So there's lots of kind of soups out there. So if you want to do like a blended soup, you can actually, what I do sometimes is I just bring the water up to boil, pop that into the Vitamix, boiling water, and then throw my vegetables in, and then just, and different, things like the ginger and garlic you can put in, and sometimes you might want to put some gentle herbs or gentle spices in there. So great question, B. Thanks so much. So the big 7 ingredients in your pantry are the refined oils, grains, salts, sugars, chemicals, soy, and dairy. And when we start to have these in our food, we start to create a really imbalanced situation in our body where we start to crave things that aren't good for us, the lethal recipe. And the thing is because of the way they're actually processed, we start to eat more of them because our body isn't nourished, and it says, feed me more. And when we're feeding these things to our children, this illustration from Return to Food says what we fill our children's bodies with affects how they think, how they feel, how they behave. It affects who they are, and it absolutely can not only affect who they become, but how they're able to actually resist disease in later years or succumb to it. And we're seeing now that as a result of this lethal recipe that most teens are malnourished, and I'd actually go as far to say, and I might take a little visual poll from my experts on each side of me. It says most teens are malnourished because they're eating at least 100 to 150 pounds of sugar a year. But would you say that you'd find most people in your practice are actually malnourished? There's,
Malnourished.
Or misnourished. Okay. Are the men misnourished as well? That was a joke.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mr. Nourished.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry. Misnourishment. Sorry. Yeah. So I certainly found that. And I don't know about you guys, but even I, sometimes I'm really challenged to make sure, that I'm getting everything. And there's just so many things that are kind of thrown at us. And we're eating what I call this Star Trek food. It's food, Jim, as we know it. And it's creating a massive problem. And this is why. The same reason that for the same reason that poppy sap is turned into opium and heroin and is highly addictive and toxic. The same thing happens when we process fresh cane into a juice and then cook it to create brown sugar, or then to the further processing of pure refined sugar. So if you notice in the lethal recipe, the oils, the salts, the grains, the sugars, if you start to look at these things, when they're highly processed, they're white. And not all of them actually start out as white to begin with probably the exception of dairy. So that's a process of taking out the macro and micronutrients, cooking it so it actually changes its structure and how it actually impacts and registers in the body, and the nourishment is gone, so the body's actually saying, feed me more. And then you're also getting highs from the drug-like reaction because the macro and micronutrients have been removed. And then what you do is you end up with a low, which is definitely not fun. And just a really interesting mice study that I shared last time I did this webinar, which I thought is really interesting. I've thought this study was very, very telling. In Loma Linda University graduate students S.R. Marsh and B.J. Fields, they did a study where they altered rat diets to see if it impacted their alcohol consumption. So this is not a mice study, it's a rat study. And for those who are very concerned about animals, I apologize that the rats were used, but I have to say, as a human rat, I've noticed the exact same thing. When the rats were nourished, they chose water over alcohol. And when the same rats were malnourished, eating the standard American diet, North American diet, Western diet, whatever you want to call it, they chose alcohol over water. And this is my interpretation of it, is that when you're nourished, you actually feel well. You have a sense of well-being. And water actually feels good in the body. But when you're malnourished and body's not getting the nutrients, you have this feeling of not being well. You feel kind of shaky and unstable. And when you're in that state and you're given the choice of something that's addictive over water, water has no addictive properties in it, and you will actually choose the thing that will actually give you a feeling of being higher than where you are. So it's a state change. And we often confuse the alcohol, the drug-like reaction, with a high when we're feeling low. So, and they found the same thing that happened is that, those rats, when they were actually switched back and forth, no matter where it was, if they were malnourished, they chose the alcohol, and when they were nourished, they chose the water. This happens to humans. So I want to now talk about the most powerful tool to lose weight, to gain energy, and reverse disease. And this is something that's not diet or exercise related. It's one of the philosophies from Return to Food. And what I found was it was a complete game changer when I started to work with clients. When I was first working with people on nutrition alone, they had a certain amount of success, changing foods and swapping foods in their diet. When I got to work with them in the kitchen, they had even more success. So really getting into the kitchen and changing what it was, taking them shopping, all that, there was even more success that they then had. But it was when I started working with the concept of hypernourishment that things really completely changed. And I want to talk a little bit about hypernourishment. It wasn't just removing the lethal recipe. I had to start to help them to nourish themselves mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And what does that mean? Well, we do go into that in the 7-Day Challenge, and it's in the Return to Food book. So there's lots of information around there about it. But just to kind of give you an insight into it, it's basically in each quadrant of our life, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically, we have the ability to actually be nourished, malnourished, and toxic. And most people who are actually eating this lethal recipe and exposed to it are actually toxic physically. When we're actually consuming a lot of negative information, whether that's like watching the news all the time, or emotionally, if we're actually engaged in a relationship and we're allowing ourselves to expose ourselves to negative emotional, say emotional abuse, that creates toxicity in the body. And if we're not getting those emotions fed with, you know, really quality human connections, again, we become malnourished emotionally. And so in each of these areas, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, if we're not getting nourished and we have toxic influences, we tend to move towards foods that replicate the feelings of well-being. And sometimes we confuse the messages of well-being. We think that it's actually, we're getting it from the nutrients, but we're actually getting it for the drug-like reactions in food. And I've seen it happen literally time and time again, where people will say they're eating something because it tastes good, when in fact they're actually eating it because of the drug-like reactions. And one of the best examples I give on this is where I say to people, who here has actually tasted a really bad cup of coffee? Can anyone relate out there to drinking a really bad cup of coffee? Like tasting it and going, this is terrible. And then getting to the bottom of it and saying, I can't believe I just, or not even being conscious, but you've drunk a terrible cup of coffee. And I always find this really kind of amusing when it comes to getting people to eat green smoothies, when they say that they taste terrible. And yet I know they've drunk alcoholic beverages and cups of coffee that taste way worse than that smoothie. And the good side, the upside to that, is that once your body starts to alkalize, even the, you know, the most veggie kind of smoothies, you can develop a palate for, and they actually become and taste sweeter. So here's the most important key point around this, is that when we nourish ourselves mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, taking care of the physical is so much easier. You see, the diet mentality is all about the physical. And, you know, occasionally now more, you know, evolved diet plans will actually throw in some of this concept of actually, you know, working on the inner game. But it is the inner game that actually starts everything. And that's why the 7-day challenge is not just giving you a bunch of meal plans and recipes, throwing it at you and telling you what you should and shouldn't eat. It's about working holistically on developing that healthier relationship with food, your body, and the planet. And one of the things that is, I believe, kind of key in this whole space is actually addressing the issue of addiction. And that really is your body telling you you're not listening to your soul. So we really address that as well. And one of the things I'm absolutely passionate about is this the concept of the social connections of what we're eating is as important as what we're eating. And I've often said I'd rather have a greasy bowl of noodles with people who are kind, loving, positive, and upbuilding than to have the most gourmet, nutritiously prepared meal with people who are angry, depressed, and negative. So we're coming now to, I'm going to explain a little bit about the Return to Food 7-Day Challenge. And it's really all about getting you from eating food that is sucking life force and nutrients from you, getting it, and get those nutrients, is sucking those nutrients out of you and making you feel fat and tired, to really moving towards food that's literally infusing life force into you, so you can actually lose weight naturally without dieting, and increase your energy without drugs and stimulants, and increase your brain function while evening out your mood so you can handle anything in your life. Does that sound appealing for anyone? So please just pop it into the chat room if you find that this could possibly be appealing to you, to increase your brain function, even out your moods, and really start to actually feel great about this beautiful body that you are living in. So if that is appealing, just pop it into the chat room and let's get engaged. Remember, there's a lovely prize at the end of this webinar for those of you who are the person who is most engaged. Okay, so the 7-Day Challenge is really about delicious food and meals that are going to hyper-nourish you physically. It's also tools to nourish the brain. So there's activities, there's information within the challenge, there are videos, there's tons of information that actually you can actually be drawn towards that will literally nourish your brain. And there's also gentle but powerful botanical detox solutions. So Francis, thank you very much for chiming in there as far as saying, oh yes, as far as your desire to have those things. And I think it's a natural desire. We all want those things. The other thing that comes up with the 7-Day Challenge is that So, oh, Shay, absolutely. Thank you very much for chiming in there too. One of the things that I have found that is so beautiful about what's actually happening with the Return to Food 7-Day Challenge is the power of community. The comments in the Facebook group, the support that people are getting from one another is incredibly, incredibly beautiful. And there's so many insights that you're actually going to get from other people by actually being part of that group. And here's some of the Return to Food coaches. You can see that these people love to laugh and have a good time. And they've really harnessed the power of actually having a mentor who's been there and navigated the road. And they've actually been traveling on this road for over a year now with me, and have carved up the path for you to make things a lot easier in your Return to Food challenge, your path to return to food. So let's just quickly talk about what the challenge is not. It's not a diet. We hate diets. Can I get a verbal confirmation from everyone here? Yes, yes, these experts beside me, these amazing, beautiful experts beside me are nodding. Yes, we hate diets. And it's not a strict plan to follow. That'll be so hard you can't wait to follow off of. A lot of people who actually signed up for the challenge, not a lot of people, a few people emailed me and said, you know what, life's getting so busy. Can I possibly do it next month? And I've actually responded back to them to say, you know what? You actually have access to these tools forever. So why don't you just start on the challenge and start to do what it is that you can do, because next month when you have more time, consider this as prep time. So it's not a thing that you're going to miss if you don't catch the first day. The materials are all there, they're recorded, they're on your member section in your dashboard, so you can actually go to them anytime. And it's not something that you have to fall off of, because it's always a process and a road that you're just on a path, a gentle path that you're on. You don't need to measure, weigh, count, or portion control anything, and I promise you there's no gimmick, trick, or fad strategy that's involved that you need to be hypnotized to follow. And just something as simple as the having that tip for having a broth at night, that's something that's actually been done for thousands of years. And humanity, in the human species, we've gone through periods of fasting, or we've actually strategically used fasting to help our body actually rest and heal. So it's not meal plans or something you need to go out and buy a ton of food that you'll never eat again because, it tasted weird or awful, or you don't know what to do with them. I can't tell you over the years how many products I've bought that have just kind of sat in my cupboard after I've, found, tried something new, and just wasted that. So it's not about that. And if you are interested in the 7-day challenge, if something's starting to pique your interest, this is what you absolutely can look forward to. And you can see we're definitely going to talk about more energy, because once you start to get the lethal recipe out and you start to get awareness about it, you can't unlearn it. Once you've heard it, it's there. It's in your brain, and you're actually going to not just know the principles. Maya Angelou said that when we know better, we do better. You're actually going to have it delivered to you in different platforms, different audio, video, in the PDF sheets, ways that you can actually learn that it actually gets integrated on different levels, not just by different platforms, but because it's actually appealing to the mental side, the emotional side, the spiritual side, and the physical side of you. Time-wise, what can you expect from the Return to Food 7-Day Challenge? I basically allow people, allow an hour to actually prepare your meals a day. So that's not saying that you have to do it all at once. It might be 10 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes for your lunch, and a half hour to 45 minutes for dinner, just depending on what you want to do. And a lot of that can actually be prepped the night before. But remember, this is not a diet. It's not meal plans. It's just about you actually working with your existing way of being and starting to remove the lethal recipe and include a lot more of what's abundant in nature. And just to think about it, the average North American spends 40 minutes on personal email, 50 minutes on Facebook, and over 5 hours watching television. And do you know that some millennials rack up to 18 hours a day of media use? It's crazy. Okay, so and the average person in North America spends 30 minutes preparing their food. So what I'm suggesting is that we trade some of that time. It was just less than 100 years ago, 6.5 hours a day was spent in the preparation of food for a family. And so if we just take some of that time that we're actually spending in front of screens, and we actually take it and put it into food preparation, that is going to be a time trade that will actually yield tons of wonderful and marvelous results for your body. What can you expect from the Return to Food 7-Day Challenge as far as costs? Well, just before I tell you the cost, I want to tell you what you're going to get. And each day in your inbox, you're actually going to, in your dashboard, in the inbox of the platform, there's going to be a lethal recipe video with a replace principle solution. So we're going to cover the refined oils, salts, grains, sugars, chemicals, soy, and dairy. And then there will be alternatives that you can actually use to take those foods out of your body, or at least give your body a rest from those things. You're going to get a delicious recipe, and that's going to be delivered in a video and a PDF format. And some of our own Return to Food coaches are actually, their professionally shot and filmed videos of their recipes are going to be featured, as well as mine. A Return to Food philosophy. So this is what really reprograms your brain and your mind to get you thinking about what it is that we are actually meant to be eating, and how we're meant to be eating it. And then a simple natural botanical detox strategy. These are very simple things. They're not overly complicated. As I say about myself, you know, a blonde can do it. I don't like spending, you know, tons of hours in the kitchen to create one simple little thing. I really like things that are efficient to use my time. So I want to get nourished, but I really want to make sure that I'm doing this very efficiently. And so these solutions are really geared with that in mind. A custom meditation and relaxation. It's quite interesting. This is after the first challenge, I had a lot of feedback on how people really loved the meditation and the relaxations. And remember, these are downloaded in audio so that you can actually go back to them time and time again. So if you're just feeling a little bit of stress, there will definitely be a meditation that's suitable for that. If you're wanting more energy, there's going to be a meditation suitable for that. If you're wanting to feel more peace and self-love, there's a meditation for that. And it all relates to the material that's covered on the day. There's also a Google Hangout laser coaching inspiration. There's a session that's being recorded for each day of the challenge. And we have 2 bonus Google Hangouts that I'm going to talk about in a bit as well. And of course, you get a connection to a powerfully positive and passionate community. And you will find people that are truly, truly loving and interested in your well-being. And it's quite exciting. And of course, as always, don't worry, chocolate is allowed. So in the concept that I teach around Pick Your Poisons, I often say that I'd much rather live to 100 with chocolate than 110 without chocolate. So I'm just going to quickly flip through the days so you can kind of see what's covered on the days. And there is, we are talking about on Monday of the challenge, we're going to talk about refined sugars and fake sugars. And each day of the challenge, you get a recipe, a video on the lethal recipe ingredient we're covering, video on the Return to Food philosophy. There's the recorded Google Hangout. Don't worry about the slide. You don't have to get up at 7 a.m. It's being recorded for you. And then there's the Facebook integration where we can actually be sharing on that page and expert material, as well as links to documentaries and things like that. And you get your meditation that is relating to the day. So sugar, we have a Sweet Life meditation. And then that moves on to Tuesday is about grains, and there's an energy meditation. Salt, we have a preservation meditation on Wednesday. And on day 4, Thursday, we cover oils, and oils where the meditation is around cellular protection. And we're talking about the consumption concept. So Donna has just actually said here, Sherry, I love your idea about spending less time with electronics and more time with our fruits and vegetables. Absolutely, Donna, love that. And B said, is it safe to combine omega, spirulina, and maca in a smoothie along with fruits and veggies? Well, B, that's a very interesting question. I just, I definitely have my opinions on it, but I'm going to actually let Taryn answer this one, if you don't mind.
Sure, yeah, I started typing, but I thought you guys might want to hear from Jerry. My thoughts are, if your question is just whether or not it's safe, I would say, yeah, for most people in realistic quantities, those aren't going to be any problem. And in fact, like there's lots of really cool medicinal benefits from those 3 guys in particular, especially the omegas. But I think my guess would be that Sherry would say it would probably be best to get those things from food. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and the other thing that I have, one of my kind of pet peeves around a lot of the superfoods is when we're combining a lot of powerful superfoods together without really understanding the contraindications of them. So my preference would be is if you are going to have it, is to have one of those ingredients, you know, at each point in the day, so that if you are having a reaction with it, you can actually understand which ingredient caused that. And that they're, you know, most natural foods aren't actually going to have contraindications, but superfoods and really powerful medicinals, you know, definitely have the potential for that. So, and also there's the flavor compound. A lot of times people are making these smoothies with tons of different medicinals or superfoods. Because they're quite complex, there's literally, you know, can be up to thousands of compounds collectively in those foods, you know, and so the body has a lot to actually deal with, you know, to, you know, assimilate and eliminate. And so I tend to keep my smoothies a bit more simple nowadays, but thanks for bringing that question up, Bea. Day 5 is about chemicals. This is really big and kind of an antidote to chemicals. The philosophy we cover is we're meant to eat together. This is about the social context in which we're eating. And on day 5, we have the purity meditation. And I had a great deal of positive feedback about the purity meditation. And I think on day 5, you're actually going to need that. Day 6, Saturday, we are covering the pick your poisons philosophy. We're also talking about dairy, and there's the natural high meditation along with all the other expert material that's in there. And so Saturday and Sunday, the material is designed to be just a little bit lighter because, you know, there's heavier stuff during the week. We like to kind of, for most of us, just relax on the weekend. So it's not as intense and full on the weekend. And if you haven't had time to go through all the materials throughout the weekend's a good time to actually catch up on that. And the meditation for that day is on hormone balancing, so really achieving balance within our lives. So just to let you know that when I actually did private coaching with people and offering all of this material, when I started to add it all up, I definitely would have been working with clients, would have charged $697. And I've had a lot of feedback over the last while, and I literally, I'm not saying this to embellish on any level, but a lot of people were saying to me, Sherry, why have you packed up so much value into one, and why are you making it so cheap? Inexpensive. I like to say inexpensive because I don't think it's cheap. And the reason why, and I can say this hand on heart and, you know, in full integrity, is to say that I want this information to literally get out to the world. And I know that when it truly comes to it, if something's super important to people and they really want to get well, or they want to actually use this as a catalyst to actually start to really get what they want out of life and feel better, everyone can find access to $100. Everyone can do that. And so I wanted to actually create this challenge at a rate that is doable for everyone. And the great thing about this is that when you do the challenge, once you've signed up for it, you actually get locked into you get invited, not locked into, it sounds like prison that way. You get invited into the Facebook group, and that is basically for the lifetime of the challenge. And so each month, on the first Monday of each month, you can actually join the new group and get rejuvenated by their excitement and enthusiasm as they're going through the challenge for the first time, and you have access to the material for the lifetime of it. One of the extra goodies that I've actually brought in is that we're going to do 2 Google Hangouts with Dr. Taryn D, ND, and Amanda McKenzie, which I did not put CNP, that is a certified nutritional practitioner, and myself, which is a food philosopher. I think that's probably the wankiest out of the other ones. They sound much more credible than me, and I tried to get a picture in there, but my computer froze up, so you just had these 2 lovely young beauties. And so the great thing about the Google Hangout with them is they're just amazingly beautiful souls, and they just want to truly help people. And they've done a lot of work and research and study to be able to have answers for you that I think you'll find they'll add a different perspective to myself, and I think that's really important. So that's a beautiful, and we're going to have one hangout at the beginning of the 7-day challenge, and we're going to have one at the end. So at the beginning, you're going to have different questions that you have at the end, and you have different questions at the end, and you can pick all of our brains. This is just to kind of, I'm going to go through this a little bit faster because we're just, oh yes, we're getting towards the time, and Taryn just pointed out to me, yes, Sherry, move it along, okay. So over the years, I've certainly had a lot of testimonials from people that really absolutely adore the philosophies that we teach in Return to Food. And many of these people have gone on to become Return to Food coaches and study, and some of my students have actually gone on to basically do some amazing things in the food space. And that is my goal and dream, is to create people who are truly living an amazing life and doing the thing that it is that they want to do, and to help them have all the tools that they can actually do it. And this is John Benson, who's a fitness author, who basically believes that the principles within Return to Food should be required reading for anyone interested in lifelong health, energy, and normalizing body weight. It's not a diet. It's reclaiming your natural right to eat the way you were designed to eat. So this is not good for you if you want a quick fix, you want a diet plan, you're not willing to put in some time and effort, or you want a magic pill or potion to do the work for you. Doesn't work, not interested in selling you that. And if you're more interested in the outside than really getting healthy from the inside out, and actually wanting to kind of ditch the diet mentality and get healthy in a way that's actually really sustainable, this program's not for you. But it is for you if you're looking for a holistic long-term solution that works, and you're tired of diets and gimmicks that don't work, you're tired of doing everything alone or going alone, you'd like help and inspiration to be part of a community that lifts you up to do this. And this is particularly helpful if you don't have other people in the family who are onto this way of thinking. It's great to tap into a group for that kind of support. And if you want to get to the root cause of what it is that's actually making you feel less than optimal, and you love real food, this program is definitely for you. I love this expression. Raise your standards and the universe will meet you there. And I really believe that a lot of this work is about becoming your own hero, about doing the thing that you fear you cannot do but feel you were born to do, the thing you most admire in others, but in your own unique, amazing, and loving way. We're actually, I believe, here to do something absolutely beautiful and special, but we live in a human body, and in order to do that, we need to take care of it. Otherwise, that process of trying to do what it is we've come here to do becomes so much more difficult, and in some respects, some ways, it can actually distract us from doing what it is we're meant to do. So I'm just going to basically go right to it, and you've got an idea of a fairly clear idea of what it is that you're actually getting for this $97, which is, I believe, an awesome value. I feel like I've never been more certain of something that I'm offering that is incredible value for people. And at this point, I would like to actually open up to some questions. And I'm not sure exactly why you're here, but I'm really here to support you to get what you want. And I actually have help in the way of coaches and experts that are going to help you get there. We have 100% money back guarantee. So at the end of 7 days, if you don't feel the challenge was right for you, you actually can get your money back. I don't want to be taking money from anyone who isn't wanting to actually embrace the principles of here and actually make changes in their life. And so, but I would love you to be sure that you want to do it. It really is $100 that I know many people will spend on a meal. They'll spend it on, an outfit that they maybe wear, or a piece of clothing that they'll wear a few times a year. The money's not the issue. If the money is issue, come talk to us, But I want you to know that when you invest in that, this is a program that you actually have for life, and you have access to the group and the Facebook page to actually get you there. So if you want to actually join the 7-day challenge, we have an offer here. And so I'm just going to move into my situation here and see if I can actually figure out how to bring it up here for you. And let's see. I haven't actually. Nope. I'm not sure why it's not coming up, but there was an offer to get you to the 7-day challenge. Here we go. This is the link here. It's Return to Food. If you go to return-to-food.com/product/return-to-food-7-day-challenge, or very simply go to the Return to Food. There's the shop area, and if you just scroll down, you'll see this little Return to Food 7-day challenge. It's $97. That will take you to a little a page where you can actually check out using PayPal. And so if you have a credit card, you can actually use your credit card through PayPal, but it is very simple that way. If there are any questions, by all means, please feel free to ask them right now. The laser coaching session, we're going to, obviously based on questions, we're going to put that out. So we're still going to include the engagement issue based on questions. And that gift again, or sorry, the prize is a coaching session, a signed copy of Return to Food, and a Zoodle Maker, all valued at $295. And, oh, okay. Taryn has just informed me that Francis is the winner of the laser coaching session and the signed copy. So congratulations, Francis. I'm really excited for you to actually get that. Oh, yes. So Francis wants specific help with sleeping with night shifts. So I will definitely be able to help you with that. And I think I might have some experts who can actually give me some expert advice to help you with that as well. So here we go. We're coming up to the end of the webinar. If the only prayer you ever say in your entire life is thank you, it is enough. That's by Meister Eckhart. I have to say to you that I am incredibly, incredibly grateful for you joining us. B has just asked if we have any suggestions for calming and sleep promoting foods. Absolutely. Chamomile tea is an absolute chamomile's an absolute classic, but
Passion flower tea.
Oh, okay. Did you hear that? Louder, just louder. This
Passion flower tea is amazing.
Okay, Amanda's just chimed in with passion flower tea. Is that readily available? Where will they find that?
Someplace that sells good quality herbs.
Okay, so you want to go someplace that sells good quality herbs. Do you have any?
Gaia Garden.
Finlandia.
Or Finlandia.
Okay.
Or Harmonic Arts online.
Okay. Oh, yes. If you're not in Vancouver, Harmonic Arts online. If BC Vancouver, it's Finlandia, or what was the other one? Gaia Garden. Okay, great. So do we have any more questions, Taryn? Waiting for the delay. Okay, and I'm just going to try and figure out where that thing is that. Okay, let's go. It's not there. It's not in polls. It's not in polls. Select offer. Here it is. Okay. Oops. I found it. Okay. Here we go. Display offer. Oh my goodness. Finally, technology has shined upon me. So if you are interested in the Return to Food 7-day challenge, I promise you that it will be an absolute incredible value and a catalyst to literally help you develop a healthy relationship with food, your body, and the planet, which has the potential to not only change your life, but many others' lives. And remember, there is a 100% money back guarantee, and we are starting on Monday, coming up on October 5th. I would love to have you join us. I'm so grateful. I want to just say thank you to everyone who came on the webinar and participated, and also say thank you to Amanda and Taryn for their fabulous support, and look forward to the three of us working together to bring incredible value to you, along with the beautiful Return to Food coaches. So please, by all means, if you are interested in joining the challenge, click the Buy Now button, and it will take you to the page that you don't have to remember that long URL for. And I look forward to seeing you in the Facebook group for part of the Return to Food 7-Day Challenge. Have a wonderful night, and thank you so much for joining us.